Hello, my name is Judy Smith. I'm the Director of Equine and Human Science here at Utah State University. Today we're going to talk about lunging. Now we will discuss the purpose of lunging, the tools for lunging, some safety concerns, and then I'll demonstrate the skills. One thing to consider when you're choosing to lunge your horse is, why are you doing it? We lunge horses for training and conditioning. We also will lunge a horse to give a riding lesson. To lunge means the horse goes around us on a circle while we remain in the middle of the circle. Now there's a variety of techniques. I'm going to just discuss the protocols and the techniques that we use here at the university. Today I have helping me Tango. He's a 17-hand Dutch warmblood. He is trained in the discipline of dressage and has done a lot of lunging and a lot of lessons on the lunge line. When we think about getting started in lunging, it is a skill that the horse has to learn. Often people think, oh, I throw the horse on a lunge line to get out its bucks and for it to, make sure that it's calm and ready for me to ride. And actually that is a very dangerous thing. It's dangerous for the person because you're attached to a bucking animal who's spinning around you. And it's also, studies have shown it causes injury in horses because they're going around at a very fast rate and the centrifugal force loads the inside limbs and can result in lameness. If your horse has a tendency to behave like that on the lunge, you can retrain it, so it will not do that. But the best result is to put it out for turnout. You can put it in a pasture, you can maybe work with it in a round pen, and just give your horse a chance to relax and get ready for the lunge work. When we think about lunging the horse, another safety concern is always using the correct equipment. Now we're going to look at the different equipment used for lunging. Often people will lunge in a halter, and while that is possible, it's not always going to give you the best result. A halter, as it goes on a horse's face, and you hook your lunge line on below, will actually encourage the horse to throw his head and try to get away from the pressure. We use equipment that encourages a horse to move into pressure, because if we're using lunging as training, we want that horse to learn to use his body and move correctly. If we're using lunging to give a lesson, we want to make sure that our rider on board will also have the best experience. So often, people get really worried about a lunge whip. And it's really important to know that a whip is not a weapon, it's a tool. And as we start going over the techniques for using a whip, you'll see how helpful it is to give signals to the horse. If you're planning to use a lunge whip, it has a long tip, so it can create a safe distance between you and your horse, but it also can swing behind and encourage your horse to move forward. You first should allow your horse the opportunity to get familiar with it. You don't want to surprise him by cracking a big whip and having him be really afraid. Another item that we used is a lunge line. And a lunge line is longer. Often they can be up to 22 feet. The longer they are, the more difficult it is to use them. I like a smaller clip. It's much easier and I'm less likely to bang my horse in the face if I have an easy small clip to use. And then, of course, this is an expensive piece of equipment and it's a good thing to put on your Christmas list, but it's a lunging cavesson. And a lunging cavesson allows us to connect on top of the nose, and we also have rings on either side. And it just gives us another opportunity to communicate with our horse as we try to condition the horse. Notice that it doesn't have a bit. So you might think, I don't have a lunging cavesson, and that's an expensive piece of equipment to buy. It is. So now I'm going to show us how we can safely attach the lunge line using our bridle to lunge our horse. You take your reins, and notice they're not around the horse's neck, and I'm going to reach up here over his neck. I'm going to pull them towards me and then take that loop that's down. And then I'm going to take my throat latch as I undo it. So pull the loop through, take it down, and run my throat latch through that end of the rein by the buckle, and then just attach it again. This will help my reins stay in place. If my horse puts his head down, he won't get it in a position where he might step in it or get himself caught. Now, where people get into a challenge and find problems is if often people will take the clip and just clip it on this side of the bit. That is not recommended. If your horse started to get a little rowdy, or if your horse tripped while on the lunge line, that will really yank on his mouth, and it will help him think that lunging is not a fun experience, and we want this to be a good experience. So the very best way, as you get started with lunging, is to take your buckle and your line, come up through the snaffle, over the poll, which is the top behind the ears here, the top of the head. And then on the other side, we'll have Tingo help us. I will keep it on top of my bridle and attach it down to the snaffle on the other side. The unique thing about this way of attaching your bridle is as I get lunging, I can hold my reins as if I were riding, and I could communicate to my horse and help him understand, oh, she's talking to me just like as if she was riding me. So obviously, if I'm going to go the other direction, we'll make a change, and I will run it the same way going the other direction. So you notice I have Tingo suited up to lunge using a snaffle bit. A snaffle bit is highly recommended. If I were to have a curb bit or a shank on here, the torque or the leverage, if my horse were, again, to trip and fall or pull away, would cause tremendous amount of pain and would make your horse very reactive and could be dangerous for you. So a snaffle is a very safe, if you do not have a lunging cavus on, way to lunge your horse. Some other pieces of equipment that's really good, and as you're starting and your horse might be learning this, is to have a pair of gloves. I always recommend lunge in a place, if possible always, if your horse did get excited and it isn't safe for you to hang on, to just let go. You don't need a rope burn, but gloves are very helpful as you're trying to lunge. Another factor is, as you work with this equipment, it's a lot to manage. And I recommend a fun way to get comfortable with the equipment is to have a friend be your horse. And you send them out as if you are lunging them, and you practice holding your lunge line, changing your whip, sending the signals, so you're very, very comfortable with the equipment. So in lunging, it's good for your horse to know, obviously, clearly understand what direction to walk as you send them out. It's also important that they understand voice commands. So you could say walk, or you could say trot, or you can say canter or lope, depending on your discipline. You can use halt, or you can use whoa. Whatever you use as a voice command, you need to be consistent. We also incorporate some body commands that are specific cues. And then obviously, our horses, if you cluck, they trot, and we kiss to them for canter. So as I start to lunge, I'm going to actually demonstrate all of those techniques so you can see them in use. But know that if you are consistent with your cues, that will be what your horse will know what to do when you give the cue. All right, let's get ready to start lunging. One thing that's always important to remember when you lunge is that you are going to form a triangle with your horse. So if you think of a couple of things, creating a piece of pizza or a triangle and sending your horse around you, your horse is on the outside of a donut and you're on the inside circle of a donut. And those are just some really good word pictures to help you think about lunging and how to go about it and where to stand. When we lunge, the direction that the horse goes, we sometimes call that the track, but the direction on the circle is forward. And you'll see me using my fingers to indicate to him to go forward, but you'll find that I will hold my line in this hand and the extra part of my line in my off hand, or the hand that will hold the whip and be behind the horse. So before you get started and send your horse out, it's really always good to make sure your line doesn't have a knot and that you have it wrapped up in a way that you could easily let the line out as you send your horse out. So I'm going to do that here. You're just going to see me coil this up in a way that I can use it and not trip over it. Because you want to be very careful not to have the line in a position that your horse might trip over it, and you certainly do not want to be in the position that the line could wrap around your legs. So this would be my forward hand, and my whip would go with my extra line here as I start to send it out. Also, on a really excitable horse, I hang on to my tail, but it does all take practice, so use your friend to help practice. So Tango's just going to stand there, and I'm going to show you lunge position and about that triangle. So you want to think that he's the bottom of the triangle, I'm the point of the triangle, and I'm going to use this hand to indicate move away, go forward on the circle, and I'm going to use this hand to indicate this is the behind, move away from my whip. And often I have people walk around in this triangle position to get really comfortable about that. It's always important to stay, and this is why I like the whip, to stay out of kick range of a horse. Notice that I can be pretty safe and I'm not even touching him with the whip, but I'm not that far from him, but I am out of the range to be kicked by him. So that's really important. Many people struggle with getting started or how to clearly signal to your horse, let's get started lunging, and what direction to go. The best way to solve that problem is to teach your horse to stand when you're directly in front of him. Now, as he stands and I'm directly in front of him, I can clearly indicate you're going to go this direction to the right or you're going to go to the left. Now remember, I have him geared up that he should be going out to the left. So as I stand here and I want to get started, I'm actually going to signal with my finger, step in front of his shoulder, and get into my triangle position. And because I'm consistent, and this is how we do it every time, he's going to see those signals and do it. So here I am in my triangle position. I'm asking him to move out away from me in the direction of my left hand, using my line, holding it like I hold a rein, and then I'm having him move away from my backhand. It's always good, if you're lunging, to be facing your horse, not sending them around you behind you and you hanging on to the line. Because something could happen. They could take off and that line could get wrapped around you, or they could kick and your back is turned. It's always good to move with them. Some people say, whoop. Some people think that they get dizzy, and you can get dizzy. And a way to solve the dizziness is to go ahead and walk a little bit with your horse. So you're making that inner circle of that donut, and he's on the outer circle. Good boy, good boy. So now we're going to ask him, he's walking nicely, he's responding nicely, we're going to ask for a trot. Trot, trot, Good boy. Good boy. I just wiggle the rein. It's called a half halt. I flex my wrist and I can speak to him to help him be balanced and move around me. Good boy. It's always good. I'm going to let my line out bigger. It's always good, if you can, to help them have this bigger circle if they're not in shape. Because remember, tight circles can be hard on a horse, but done correctly, lunging is a very effective training tool and conditioning tool. Good boy, good boy, good boy. We'll get him warmed up and then we'll ask for a canter. But first I'm going to show you what it looks like for a down transition. I use my hand. I say walk. Good boy. Walk on. And all I had to do was raise my hand and he made that down transition. Okay, so we're going to ask for a trot again. Trot. Trot. Good. And we'll get ready to ask for a canter. Canter. Good. 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 Good boy. So I'm walking with him. My line is a little bit short and I know that he is not in the condition he should be right now. And I want to make sure that I'm not causing too much force on the inside of that circle. And trot. Good. And walk. Good. Now I'm going to send him around and let's show what a halt would look like. When I ask for a halt, I want to be sure that he doesn't turn in on the circle. So I put my hands together and say, halt. Point my whip at his shoulder, and he stays out on the circle. That's really important when we have riders. So he wants to turn to me now, but the goal is, will you stay out on that circle and not turn? Because if I had a rider on him, that might unseat the rider. So changing our lunge line is very important when we want to change direction. And I like to warm up my horse at the walk and the trot in each direction actually before I canter. Unless I know my horse is, doesn't struggle with stiffness, or I know that my horse is moving well and comfortable. It just gives them a little bit more opportunity before you ask for that canter on the lunge line. So as I approach my horse, I put my whip under my arm so I don't come straight at the horse with my whip. And remember, as you're lunging, you have this in two hands and you can easily just gather it together, come up, and tell him to stand. So I secure my horse by the bridle. I let this go and I hold it as I go around so I don't whack him with the buckle. And I just reverse putting the line through the other direction. So I'm going to come over here. Once again, I go from the outside in, up the inside of the snaffle, over the pole, down on the offside now. This is going to be my offside. And I actually hook it to the snaffle just behind where the headstall is attached. Good. And now we're ready to continue lunging and going the different direction. Starting in this direction is just like starting in the other direction. I'm going to have to put my whip in the hand that goes behind the horse. I'm going to put the lunge line in the hand that is at the head of the horse. So it's always good to make sure that as I start, my horse stands and wait. I'm in front of him and he doesn't go until I signal. So now I'm going to say away. Point, step to his shoulder, and here we go again. Good. Walk, 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 walk. Good, good. Tango. Good, good. Trot. Good, good. 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 Canter. Good. And trot. Good. And walk. Good. So we're going to ask him to halt, and I say halt, halt. Good. So I approach my horse, taking my hand. I like to teach them not to approach me, so you might have to ask them to back up till they learn this. And I gather my line up, and I can secure my horse.
Go ahead.
All right, so now we're going to put a lunging cavesson on Tango. It's different in the fact that it doesn't have a bit, and especially as a horse is learning to lunge, it provides that opportunity to not have a bit in the mouth in case the horse did react and throw its head and it would cause it discomfort. And remember, anytime you inflict pain upon your horse, he's associating that pain with you, and he's not going to like what he's doing. So we really want it to be pleasant. The lunging cavesson is to be fit around just above where a curb strap would go. And this is not like a throat latch. It's actually it's at the chin. And so we want to secure it just at the midpoint of the chin. I want to make sure that it's not too tight, because too tight and too low would cut off the nose air passages, and that would be uncomfortable for my horse. And too loose would cause it, as you lunge and go the different directions, that your horse would, it would slide to one side or the other. So you just want to make sure it's firm, but not too tight. So here, we're going to attach it to the middle nose ring, because I will be able to change directions in movement, and I won't have to spend the time of going out to him and adjusting it on the bridle. So it's a very easy way to utilize lunging. And remember, by having the attachment here, we're teaching our horse to move into contact rather than wanting to throw its head and pull away from contact.